Hey everybody, it's Michael from Wahoo Comics, here with another haul and speculation video. And as usual, I've got a bunch of books I'm looking forward to showing you and a bunch of stories that I'm looking forward to tell, starting off with this book, Star Wars number 42, which of course contains the first appearance of Boba Fett. Now, if you've been watching my videos, you know that I'm a big fan of that character and I'm a big fan of this book. I know not all Boba fans have liked the recent Disney Plus show, but I'm 2 episodes in and I've enjoyed it. It's definitely been very different than I expected, but I thought it's been pretty cool. And I've really especially liked kind of the development of the Tusken culture in that show. And so if you've been watching it, tell me in the comments, have you liked it or have you been disappointed by it, or what are your thoughts about it? Well, anyway, most of the books I'm going to show you today came from the same seller. And a couple of weeks ago, he was putting up some books online that he was looking to sell over a period of a few days. And so I picked up a couple early on, and probably on about day 3, he put this book up for what I thought was a really good price. And so I ended up ordering it. And then over the next few days, he was putting up some other listings, and so I was looking at other books to pick up so that then we could put just together one transaction, and so I could get it all into one shipment. And he messaged me and let me know that, hey, man, accidentally marked this way too low. I should have priced it for about twice of what I did. And he said, though, that's his fault, and so he wasn't going to try to cancel the sale or anything like that. And so, of course, I really appreciated that. And then he mentioned how he remembered picking this book up when he was a kid at a Toys R Us. And so I replied back and said, man, yeah, I appreciate you not trying to cancel the sale. And I mentioned that I thought that was a really cool story, that he remembered picking it up when he was a kid. And I shared how one of my favorite moments as a kid is how my mom picked me up a 3-pack of comics for $1 from Kmart that ended up having Secret Wars 7 through 9. And, she didn't know anything special about that. But those are the books that just happened to be in it. And of course, especially Secret Wars 8 now is a very sought after book and a very collectible book because of the first appearance of Spider-Man and the symbiote suit. And so I have really fond memories of that. And so I shared, well, I think it's cool that you have fond memories of getting a book when you were a kid as well. And then I mentioned, hey man, obviously I really want this book, but I'm not looking to screw someone over. So let me think about a couple ways that I can make this deal maybe a little more right, because it's always really important to me to have all my transactions be as win-win as possible. Obviously, I'm always looking for good deals and I'm looking to save money, but I want to leave from my deal satisfied, but I also want the seller or the buyer, if I'm selling, to leave satisfied as well. So I put on my thinking cap, and so I kept watching what he was putting up over the period of the next few days. And then there was a book that I messaged him about, and I said, hey, you put up a book that I've been actively looking for, and I want a copy, but it's priced a little bit more than I'm looking to pay for it. But I would be willing to buy it at that price if it makes it feel better about how this Star Wars went down. And so he messaged back, he said, yeah, that works great. And so I ended up picking up Luke Cage, Hero for Hire, number 1. And this is a book that I had been, like I said, actively looking for, and I think it's a good book to pick up now to invest in. And it's my first copy of it, and of course this contains the first appearance of Luke Cage. And as you probably know, he had a Netflix show that was pretty popular, not as big as the Daredevil show, but pretty popular. And all these characters from the Netflix show are likely to be introduced into MCU proper over the next couple of years, and so I think eventually Luke Cage will make his way there. And when he does, I expect this book to grow in value quite a bit. And so now, if you're interested in this book, I think now's the time to get it. I think it's at the floor of its value and has nowhere to go but up. And so I am glad to have a copy in my collection now. And I'm glad also that it made the deal feel more win-win with the seller. And I'm actually I'd be happy to pick up more copies of this book at some point as well. Like I said, I do think this is a good one to be getting. And some other books I picked up from this same seller. thinking of Luke Cage, there's this cover of him charging the Defenders number 17. But the reason I picked up this book was because it's the first cameo appearance of the Wrecking Crew. Now, something else you might know if you've been watching my videos is that I'm a big fan of all of the villains from that Secret Wars run because of, those were the first ones I was exposed to as a kid. And so I love the Wrecking Crew. And so earlier in the year, I got the first appearance of the Wrecker in Thor 148, and also the first full appearance of the Wrecking Crew in Defenders number 18. And I'm now happy to have their first cameo appearance, and that also includes the first cameo appearance of most of the members of the Wrecking Crew, everybody other than the Wrecker, Thunderball, Piledriver, and Bulldozer, here in Defenders number 17. And this is definitely a worn copy, quite beat up, but he had it just for $1. And so for $1 to pick up a book of some characters that I love, even if it's in pretty rough shape, I was very happy to do it. All right, and that brings me to the first book that I saw him list that I wanted to buy, and that was this one, Spider-Gwen number 1. I think this is also a great book to consider investing in. I think this character is one that is going to grow in popularity in the coming years, and so the keys associated with her will. And getting this book is a little bit of a personal redemption story because it has been a book that I've been hunting for a few months. And this past summer, I put in an order with a seller online, and I bought a Spider-Gwen number 1 among some other books. And then when the shipment came in, I learned, unfortunately, there are actually 2 volumes of Spider-Gwen. And the Spider-Gwen number 1 that I had ordered, unfortunately, was from her second solo series, and so wasn't the one that I was looking for, and I don't think has much long-term value, maybe a little bit. But I think this is the book to actively be looking for, and that I was looking for, and that now I'm very happy to actually finally have her first solo series. Going on with other number 1s, I also got from him all new Ghost Rider number 1, which contains the first appearance of Robbie Reyes, and when he becomes the new Ghost Rider. And I have always been a big fan of the Ghost Rider character, going back to my childhood. When I first started collecting in late elementary school, I was buying pretty much all Marvel comics and got all the number 1s. And so one of the first number 1 books I got was Ghost Rider number 1 from the 90s, which contains the first appearance of Danny Ketch and when he becomes the Ghost Rider. And for years, that was my favorite comic book because it was the one that was worth the most. I bought it and it gone up to like $20 or $30 at one point, and I thought as a kid, man, I can't believe I got this book that's worth $30 that I paid off the newsstand like $1.75. It was more expensive than a regular book in those times, and so I always loved that book, and I've always had a fondness for Ghost Rider since then. And so now I'm glad to add the first appearance of a different Ghost Rider to my collection. And this is also a story of redemption to hopefully come one day. So I've got the first appearance of Danny Ketch, now of Robbie Reyes. And I would love one day to have the first appearance of Johnny Blaze, which is a Marvel Spotlight number 5, the original Ghost Rider. And why would be a little bit of redemption? When I first started getting serious about collecting last year, I had a chance to win an auction for a Marvel Spotlight 5. And at the last minute, I didn't pull the trigger on putting in what would have been the highest bid because I had just bought my first big boy book, and I felt like, I don't know, I can't do this again because I had put in a bid and then it went up. And man, I am kicking myself from that because just a couple months later, that book shot up in value and price, and I really wish I had a copy now. And so one day, I hope to own a Marvel Spotlight 5. But in the meantime, I'm really glad to have this copy, and again, containing the first appearance of Robbie Reyes. All right, some other books that I picked up from this seller. This is one I'm personally excited about. Web of Spider-Man number 36, which contains the first appearance of Tombstone. When I first started collecting as a kid, Tombstone was kind of the main villain in this Web of Spider-Man run. And so I always thought he was terrifying and scary. He's obviously all white. And I just thought that was a really creepy, scary look. And so I've always been fond of that character. And I think he could come to the MCU at some point, especially as they do more street-level stuff. He's basically kind of like a gangster. And whether or not he does, which if he does, this book will shoot up in value. But I'm still happy to have it. And then a couple of just other cheap books that I got from him. Avengers Forever number 9. This contains the first definitive, as they say, origin of Kang. That character has been retconned many times. But if you're a Kang fan and you want to spec on him and you're looking for some good budget specs, this is one to consider picking up. Another budget book that I got from him, Quasar number 14, which contains a Todd McFarlane cover. You've been watching my videos. That's another thing that I collect and that I think that's good to consider investing in are Todd McFarlane character covers, especially these early Marvel issues that are lower print runs. I mean, who's buying Quasar back in the day? Not a lot of people. And so it's a pretty cool Todd McFarlane cover. All right, a couple of other books I'll show you that I got from a different seller. One that I'm really excited about is this one, Fantastic Four number 55, which contains this awesome battle cover between the Silver Surfer and the Thing. And I think this is just a great cover buy. It's also the fourth appearance of the Silver Surfer. I mean, that progressively means less and less, but it is his fourth appearance. And of course, at some point, we know the Fantastic Four are coming to the MCU, them sooner rather than later. And that means other important characters with them, like the Silver Surfer, will certainly make their debut. And so buying keys associated with that character are a good thing to consider investing in right now, in my opinion. And not only are his kind of like major moments popular, good investments, but also there's some of these fantastic covers like this one. And so this is just a beautiful book that I am super happy to add to my collection. And that brings me to my sleeper of the week. And I'm not really a big pun guy, but there is a book that I bought from the first seller that fits the description. So I thought of a sleeper, and the name I couldn't get any better. Sleepwalker number 1. And this is also a book from kind of my childhood that matters. So like I mentioned, I bought like all the Marvel number 1 issues back in the day. And this was like the one that I didn't get. So I think when this came out, I just thought, oh, that character looks so lame. Sleepwalker, that doesn't sound cool. And I was kind of thinking, oh, do I really want to spend money on this? And so I passed it over. And then there was a lot of buzz about this character at the time, I think because he was just a new character. So then I started getting Sleepwalker with issue number 2. And so I've got a bunch of worthless Sleepwalker issues. And I'd always wanted to get this one since I got back into collecting. And it's always been, like a $5 to $10 book. So I knew, well, at some point I'll pick this up. I'm not in any rush to get it, but just whenever I see it at a decent price from someone I'm buying from, I'll get it. But a few weeks ago, there was an image leaked of the Doctor Strange Multitude of Madness toy line, which you've watched my videos. I'm a big advocate of looking at images of upcoming toys that are tied into movies because they usually reveal what characters are going to be in that movie. And in that toy line, there was Sleepwalker. And so there's nothing been confirmed yet, but I think there's a great chance that Sleepwalker is going to be in that Doctor Strange movie. Now, if he is, I'm fully expecting it just to be kind of a cameo. I'm not really expecting like him to be an essential character or anything like that. So kind of the trajectory of this book, I think it's going to spike in value if he is in that movie. And then it'll come down quite a bit after the movie and some of the excitement dies. But I don't think the floor will ever be like a $5 to $10 book again. I think it'll be like a $10 or $20 book. And then of course, if they actually really start using Sleepwalker, if he seems to be popular from how the audience responds, then of course this book could really go up in value. But regardless, I am happy now to have one, like the only number 1 from the early 90s, that I did not have in my collection from Marvel Comics, and now I do. So really happy to pick that one up. And that brings me then to my question of the week. So I've mentioned some number ones I either did pick up or didn't pick up as a kid. I got the Ghost Rider number one, missed out on this one. And for years, like I mentioned, Ghost Rider number one was like my favorite issue from my collection just because of its value. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad I picked this up. I'm curious, from your early years of collecting, whether it was as a kid or maybe you got into comics later on, what was your favorite issue in your collection? Maybe it's still your favorite issue. Ghost Rider number one certainly isn't my favorite issue now that I have in my collection, but it was for years. What was and it was the first one that I was like, this is my favorite. What was the first issue from your collection, or if you don't remember the exact first, an early issue from your collection that you were just so excited that you had? I'd be curious to hear. All right, we'll leave that response in the comments, or comment on anything else that you want to talk about when it comes to comics. Of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I'd really appreciate it if you consider doing so and helping the channel continue to grow and put out content. Like the video if you enjoyed what I had to share, and I enjoyed making the video, and I look forward to doing the next one.